This is the Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. Actionable advice from real-life superheroes who, just like you, are in relentless pursuit of the best version of themselves. Whether you're just getting started or have been at it for years, my hope is that this podcast injects you with some positive energy to continue doing what brings you joy. Join me as I interview the best of the best in business, sports, and life. Let's grow together. All right, another episode of the Get Better Everyday podcast where we're going to be talking about health, wealth, all kinds of things in between with Brittani Marston. Thanks so much for joining me today, Brittani. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And thanks so much for having me, Matt. I'm really excited. Super grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's always fun too. And like none of these are scripted. So it's just an authentic conversation. A lot of times, just getting to know the other person who's aligned in this get better every day kind of philosophy and mentality about life and how it applies to so many different parts of your life. So before we jump into some of that and maybe gives people some tips and tricks for what they can and should be doing probably, tell us a little bit about yourself, what stuff you're involved in. And then if you want to, take us down memory lane on where you got started, that'd be awesome too.
Okay. Oh gosh, where do I begin? I feel like that's $1 million question. It's like, tell me about you. And you're like, where do you want me to even start? Right. So, my journey really started back in 2016. I'm on this get better everyday journey. I think that I love the story of the underdog. And so that's kind of where I find myself, which is why I find myself here with you. So kind of taking it back, the story of the underdog where, the odds are stacked against them. They hit kind of ground zero, rock bottom, and you have to decide whether you're going to stand back up and fight or you're going to let it crush you to the ground. And so for the last going on 7 years now, I have taken it upon myself to kind of stand up and throw punches back when all of the odds are stacked against me. So back in 2016, I moved away to Virginia, which was across the country from me. I was born and raised in California. Super California girl, loved the sunshine, decided to go on an adventure and moved to Virginia after college. And it turned out to be the absolute worst year of my life. Talk about taking a chance on yourself and then it crashing and burning within just a matter of weeks. And when your family has kind of been like, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. And you're so, hard-headed and stubborn that you want to go and scrape your knees on your own. You take that leap of faith and sometimes you hit rock bottom in the middle. So, getting very personal here because of what we just talked about, being that underdog that comes back up. So I moved across the country for a guy that I was dating at the time. And I found out very quickly that he was cheating on me. And so I had to walk away from that. Kind of that snowballed into losing a friend. And then I actually lost my dad in the same year. So very, very sudden, very traumatic. I'm getting a call that's, he's in the hospital, healthy guy. So at that point in time, I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and you question everything. You question why you're here. You question why things are happening to you. You question why things have happened to you in that manner. And again, you have to decide if you're going to let it lay you out or if you're going to stand back up and throw punches back. And so it took me a little while, right? But I decided to stand back up and throw punches back. And in that moment in time, because he was ripped away from us so suddenly, so tragically, I was like, wow, life is precious. Every breath in my lung is precious. Every moment that I am here is precious. And so from that day on, it was kind of like, I'm ruining my body. I have come from a place where I have lost 70 pounds and maintained a 70-pound weight loss over the last couple of years. And I'm in the mindset of like, your health is your wealth. If you can't wake up and have breath in your lungs every day and you can't go for a walk and enjoy the sunshine and you can't read or work, like you really have nothing. And so for the last 6 years, I have really poured into my overall health and well-being. That includes, weight loss, living a healthy lifestyle, fueling my body, moving my body. But it also translates into mindset, right? Personal development, taking care of yourself, putting up boundaries, and just taking the things that you learned from the past week, the day before, and just stacking on those so you can get 1% better every day, so that, when those trials and tribulations come back up and they want to lay you on the driveway again, you know how to stand back up again and keep throwing those punches. So
yeah, I love that. And I think that resonates with people because it's not a perfect road for anybody. And for
absolutely
anybody who's achieved anything, more often than not, and I've heard a lot of these stories, so I know it because I've heard the personal stories. It's the tragedy, it's the downfall, it's the hard times that fuel the comeback, that fuel most people in their success, and it continues to fuel them year after year because they know how shitty it feels, how hard it was, and they empower themselves, through self-development and getting around the right people, whatever that is, to go out there and do better in multiple areas of life, right? Like you're talking about health, which is probably the most important, right? If you want to achieve something in business, you want to achieve something anywhere else, like if this, suit you're wearing or around, your body isn't performing, then you're not going to do well at any of it. So I appreciate your honesty and your story, and sorry about your pops. But this is stuff that people deal with. Like there's people that are going to be listening, and this is my hope with the podcast, that are struggling, and they need to find some way to take the first step in the right direction, whether it's with their health, whether it's with relationships, whether it's, in their business and financially, but it's hard when you're stuck. I'd love to hear from you, like how in the deepest, darkest of moved away, relationship went south, lost my dad, like how did you start? Because I think that's one thing that I want to figure out how to help people with is get started. Once you take a few steps, and I think the Brittany who lost 70 pounds, once you lost 30, you're like, oh shit, I'm capable, right? And then like, as you start to grow that muscle of self-development, you get better at it. But in the very beginning, can you think back to what might have helped you get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a firm believer in like you kind of have to hit rock bottom. Like everybody's got to hit rock bottom before you're ready to take that first step and kind of get over your own BS. For me, it was in regards to like the weight loss. I knew I needed to lose weight. I could look at myself in the mirror and tell myself that like nobody else is doing this except for you. Like you're the one to blame here. You need to take responsibility for that. And it is hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not hard. It is. Every journey, every personal self-development journey you embark on is hard, but it's taking those hard things and doing them day and day and stacking them on each other that builds that confidence, that builds that momentum. And so for me, for the weight loss part, I just started eating at home. And that was the simplest thing. I was like, I need to save money. I need to eat at home. And then once I started eating at home, I started seeing changes in my body. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This is nothing stringent or restrictive or anything like that. I'm just eating the stuff that I like at home so I can save money. And then once that routine kind of started, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can drink a little bit more water every day and like cut out soda and cut out really sugary coffees. And then that momentum just kind of started and continued on. So from there, even talking about taking that one step, it just filters into all other aspects of your life. Like once I started eating at home, I was like, well, maybe I could go for, a walk. let's go for a walk one day a week, And so when you start building that confidence, like when you recognize that there's a need for different, and then you decide to take that step and do different, and you commit to it and you prove yourself that you can, then that is just a ticker on the self-love block. That's like, no, you are capable. You can do hard things. And now you're building this level of confidence because you're no longer saying no to yourself. You're no longer putting everything else and everybody else before you. Now you're like, no, I need to eat at home because that's what I need to do for my own well-being.
Yeah, I love that. And something that I was listening to and I want people to hear, if they didn't hear it, this isn't rocket science. And with most stuff, it's not, right? It's things that are simple, but hard, right? And food and diet and health is hard. Business is hard. Addiction, I know personally, is hard, but it's simple. Like stop, or you took these simple steps. So I'd like people to hear, right? Like one step at a time, eating at home. Oh, I can prepare probably healthier meals than Taco Bell. So this is helping me out, right? And then maybe I should drink a little bit more water. Maybe I should go for some more walks. And like the stuff compounds on it, but don't think that it's got to be super complex, right? And like you're starting a fitness journey and you're going to track macros and you're going to be 5 times a week in a CrossFit gym. Just start simple, right? And work your way from there. So I love that, because this is a true relatable story where there's results, and you're the first to admit, not easy. Losing 70 pounds is not easy. So congrats to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'd love to hear for people, because it all translates to like whether health is your thing or business or whatever, like you got to get started. You got to take, steps that move you in the right direction so you can get some momentum. What do you do when there's roadblocks? What do you do when there's a week where you're like, oh shit, I got off track? Because I know full well, without even asking you, right? Like this stuff doesn't happen in a straight line. The mortgage industry just like, I don't just have success week in and week out. There's good and there's bad and there's ugly. Tell me about maybe a story where you failed and how you got back on track.
Yeah. So, I'm still failing. Let's be honest. It's been 6 years. I still go through these waves of, the gym feels like a chore. I don't want to go, or meal prep feels like a chore and I don't want to do it. And so we go through these waves, and we overwhelm ourselves a lot by trying to have it. We feel like we need to just have it all together, versus like sitting down and recognizing like the season that we're in and just giving ourselves grace to just live in that season. Right. And so I fail constantly. I failed yesterday. I told myself I was going to get up and go to the gym or go for a run or go do something. And then I sleep in and it doesn't happen. Right. And so I had the full intentions of doing it. You fall off track. This morning I got up. I was like, okay, I need to wake up a little bit earlier. I need to go get a gym session in or get a run in. You just get back on track, right? For so long in my weight loss journey, I had tried to lose weight for years. Nutritionalists, with my doctors, and for as long as I can remember, I was overweight. They wanted me to do more of like a keto, which was like Atkins back then. I was on all sorts of different plans and stuff. It never worked because it was my mindset. It was the fact that I thought that I had to have it all together. And to your point of simplicity, like we think that we have to have it stacked all together, like all day, every day. But if you just take that one step, so, I mean, there's been times I've plateaued through the years because I've fallen off track. I broke my knee at the start of my journey and I had to go on crutches. And then after that, I mean, so it's never a linear path. Even now, it's not a linear path for me. I just have built those skills over so long that I know how to jump back on track the next day, or retake that commitment. Because if I go too long without doing the things that I know are hard, when I go too long without doing the things that I know make me feel good, like eating a healthy diet, going to the gym a couple times, multiple times a week, then my mental health starts to decline too. So they go hand in hand. And I can't say I know like a very specific story where I could say like on Tuesday, June 19th, but it happens constantly, frequently. And even my sister just a couple weeks ago, she said, "You're one of the most disciplined people I know." And it has absolutely nothing to do with motivation. I don't like waking up at 5 a.m. and going for a walk in 40-degree weather. Like I would rather be on a beach in Florida with a drink in my hand, but that's not, there are things that we have to do that are hard, that help us live in the space that we need to be in order to take that next step, in order to keep throwing those punches. And you have to learn those things for yourself.
Right. Yeah. And I think something you said too, like you're not perfect, you've made mistakes, but to the outsider looking in, it's like, oh, you're really disciplined because over this period of time, you've taken it off, you've kept it off. I think it boils down to consistency. And one of my favorite sayings is, it's better be consistently good than occasionally great. when you talked about like the people that want the whole plan together and they want it to be perfect, they want it to be great. That's no good if you do that and then after a week you're off, right? If you're consistently making good decisions and you're consistently good over years, then you can fall off, you can get back on, you can make a mistake, you can correct it, you can grant yourself some grace. I wanted to work out last 3 days and I didn't, but I'm going to make it happen today. And so like consistently good is generally going to win. And that goes for business, health, and all of it. One question I wanted to ask you too, because I know you share your story, which I am a huge fan of, because I know when conversations like this happen and people go, oh, well, shit, I thought Matt just had success and had no failures. I'm glad he shared some of his failures. I thought Brittani just lost 70 pounds. It was like, made a decision, lost it, no big deal, right? It empowers people to say, you're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. Go out and do it. And so I love sharing because like I get inspired. I get inspired every time I go to the gym and I see somebody who's, 600 pounds in there sweating. Like that inspires me more than the friggin', dude who's going to be on Men's Health and Fitness next month, right? Because I know it's harder for the person who's just starting. So what is maybe what's inspired you to share?
Honestly, other people. Like I started my journey. I use social media the way that I use social media now. And I started following people who had come from these places, right? But women who have gone on 100-pound weight loss journeys where I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can show up every day for this long journey that they've continued to, progress on, and them sharing their journey gave me the confidence to start my own and then kind of share my own journey, because everybody's different, right? Like everybody's lifestyle is different. And we need people who are vulnerable enough to say, hey, I've come from that place and you're going to make it out of that place. And here's what I did. And you can do it. And you can do it too. Because there were times in my journey where I was like, I felt alone. I felt numb. I felt in this dark, deep hole. And if, anyone listening, if you've ever experienced grief, most of us have, and it's something that we don't talk about. And you're never alone. Like there's billions of people on this world and everybody has some sort of similar experience somewhere. And you're just never alone. And I think the more that we can share vulnerabilities, like the underdog stories of how we're climbing up through the trenches, and it's not perfect. And, like I'm getting started in real estate business too. And it hasn't been easy, but there's two sides of every hard. It's like when I was 270 pounds, I hated myself. I had a hard time walking upstairs. I had a hard time being comfortable in social settings. I had a hard time using my voice. I had a hard time being me. So yes, on this opposite side, is it hard to go to the gym? Is it hard to eat healthy? Is it hard to make good, hard decisions for myself? Yes, but it's also much easier to walk into rooms and be myself and not want to hide and feel like I'm living a life versus being stuck in a body that I was like, who am I?
Right. Yeah. And that's one thing, you talked about it. And I think that like the catalyst for change for a lot of people is pain. When you're addicted to drugs, you don't feel good about yourself. You're in pain and you want out. You just don't know how. When you're not at your desired weight and you're unhealthy, you can't get upstairs, there's pain and you want out. Right. And I think I empathize with all of it because in its own way, it's the same hard and it's the same like creating new habits, creating new things. You mentioned it. I had a past guest mention it too, where there's this correlation between, self-love and taking care of yourself and mental health. I think there's something up in my gym that says like you're only one workout away from a good mood. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I know that on my own journey to get clean, the gym was like my outlet. And the gym was something where I was like, if I go there, I'm going to feel good about myself. I'm going to take one step closer to like, I'm a Matt that I'm proud of. I'm a Matt that like, loves myself. Right. And so I think for anybody who's struggling, know that no matter who you see out there, like they've struggled too. And like I could tell in your voice, I'm an emotional dude. So like it's coming through in my voice, like we've all felt it. And so I think the message I want people to hear is don't give up on yourself. Take a couple steps in the right direction. Start looking at the Brittani Marstons and other people online. Because to your point, like you see people's stories that inspire you and you're like, that really, really helped me. Chris Heron has no idea how much he helped me on my journey. And I've watched hundreds of hours of his videos. And so keep doing what you're doing. Keep sharing your story. I appreciate it. Any parting words for the Get Better Everyday listener?
Just, you're going to go through waves, especially in business. I've proven this to myself time and time again, is there are some days you're going to show up and you're going to be at 280% and you're going to feel amazing and you're going to feel on top of the world. And then the next day you're going to feel like you're hitting rock bottom again. And it's going to feel hard and it's going to feel heavy and it's going to feel like you're sloshing through the mud. But just then the next day, it's going to feel like 120% again. So just never give up. You're going to go through these bounces of waves. And if there's one thing I can say, is just stand up, keep throwing punches, no matter how many you have to throw, like you're going to get there.
I love it. Thanks, Brittani. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Have a good one. Thanks so much.